Welcome back, and thank you so much for sticking with us. Well, folks, guess what? As promised, because I like to keep my word, ding, 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 ding. It's now been 9 days. 9 days since Biden's failed withdrawal from Afghanistan. 9 days since hundreds of U.S. citizens and interpreters, the Afghan army, and our allies were left behind. Left behind to what? Taliban control. To most likely a heinous death. The Biden administration seems to be ready to just turn the page and forget those left behind. The administration, truly, truly a disgrace, folks. Now it seems the first large-scale commercial flight did actually leave the Kabul airport. Happened earlier today. Yet the number of Americans on the flight remains unknown. We heard maybe a couple. The AP says scores of Westerners, including Americans, were allowed to fly out of Kabul. This according to U.S. senior officials, like we can trust them. 200 Westerners were on this Qatar flight. They did say Americans. Green card holders, we know they were from Hungary, Canada, and Germany. I'm hearing 20, 30, 40, I don't know, out of the 200. Point being, there's still Americans left behind. The Taliban now working tirelessly to hunt down not only those Americans, but of course those interpreters and Afghanis that helped us, America. Taliban has a kill squad, they're calling it. And get this, they're using our technology. That's right, U.S. biometric data. Their special hunt, I don't know if I got this right, called the Al-Isha. They're using their handheld scanners that we left behind and breaking into the biometric database that we left behind to identify who helped us so they can drag them out of their house and kill them. That's right. That's what's happening. So besides the guns, the Humvees, everything else, we leave behind technology that pretty much gives them the roadmap to kill people. Our next guest, Marine, a former special intelligence operator who is also running for U.S. Senate in my home state of Ohio. Josh Mandel joins us. And Josh, I know you've got some more details on this from some of your folks that are still, I believe, in country or just got back from there. So Josh, welcome to the program first and foremost, but I want to get right to it on this technology. So we knew the M16s, the Humvees, the choppers, they've got technology that can use facial recognition so they can identify and go door to door and drag them out and shoot them in the head in front of their families. And that's what's happening. Did I get it about right?
You got it right.
Disgusting.
So when I was in Iraq, it is disgusting. When I was in Iraq and I served in the Marine Corps, I was an intelligence specialist, 2 tours in Anbar province, did my small part. And one of the pieces of U.S. military equipment we handled and operated, and this is all open source information at this point in time, was a U.S. biometrics technology system that would do facial recognition scans, iris scans, fingerprint scans, and other scans, and it'd go into a big database. The system we used there was called a BAT system. The system used in Afghanistan was called a HIDE system. There's a bunch of other systems as well, but the bottom line is scan people's eyeballs, scan people's faces, scan people's fingerprints. We put them into a big database. Using that database, you track the bad guys. You track what we call MAMs, military-age males. And then you also track the good guys, folks who might be interpreters, local police, local army, friendly allies, in the communities. And so imagine this amount of information now in the hands of the Taliban.
Wow.
They are now taking this information of the local allies, the interpreters, those who helped the Americans over the past 2 decades, and they're literally using it as a kill list to go door to door to door to kill people and hunt them down just because they aided the U.S. military.
Yeah, let's forget about the list that our State Department admitted, right? And Biden was like, I don't know, maybe we did. The list we gave the Taliban to say, hey, please help us get these people over to the airport so we can get them out, right? We did that a week or so ago. Now they got the technology. Answer something for me, Josh. I heard through the grapevine that there's already Chinese operatives in the country showing these cave-dwelling scumbags, these terrorists, let's call them what they are, the Taliban, and probably ISIS-K, showing them how to use it, because a lot of them don't have the brain power to use the technology, so they got the Chinese in there showing them how.
It's interesting you say that. I just gave a speech last night in a town called Brecksville, Ohio, and I talked about this Biden Afghanistan debacle, And one of the things I talked about in respect to the U.S. military technology and equipment is the fact that just because the Taliban doesn't know how to use it and operate it doesn't mean they won't learn. And they're going to learn, and they are learning in three ways. One is what you just explained, the Chinese are teaching them. Two, the Russians are teaching them. And third, they're going to go to folks who served in the Afghan military, who were trained by the U.S. military. They're going to put a gun to their head and say, listen, you show us how to use this weaponry, or you can be dead right now. Those are your choices. And so you better believe it. Beijing is flooding the zone. Moscow is flooding the zone. And for any type of military equipment they can't figure out through the Chinese or the Russians, they're just going to use Afghan soldiers to teach them, because if an Afghan soldier says no, they'll shoot them and move on to the next one.
Yeah. This is the biggest cluster, you know what. You don't even compare it to Vietnam, nothing. This is the biggest mistake that the U.S. government has ever made, I think, in the history of our nation. Josh, before we say goodbye to you, you are running for U.S. Senate in my home state. So let folks know real quick how they can get information about your campaign and help out if they'd like to.
I appreciate it. My website is joshmandel.com, joshmandel.com. I'm a Marine Corps vet, did a couple tours in Iraq. I'm pro-God, pro-gun, pro-Trump, and I'm a fighter. I'm going to Washington to combat the secular left, combat the radical left, but also take on these squishy establishment rhino Republicans. I'm going there to be reinforcements for Jim Jordan, Ted Cruz, Donald Trump, and other fighters.
Good for you. Thank you for your service to the country, and thank you for trying to serve once again. We need more vets in the halls of Congress. I say it all the time. Josh, best of luck to you. Take care, brother.
Thanks, man. Take care.
Yep. California Democrat-run state legislator now advancing some racist propaganda. I'm talking about their ethnic studies legislation. It passed yesterday. It's now awaiting Newsom's signature. Assembly Bill 101 proposes California public schools require students to complete one semester of their ethnic study course by the time they graduate. If Newsom signs the bill, it'll start going into effect 2025 into the 2026 school year, making ethnic studies mandatory. And we've already shown you what type of studies those are. Okay? Right? Whites are the oppressor, blacks are the victims. Melissa Melendez, California State Senator, represents the Golden State's 28th District. I want to welcome her back to the program. Melissa, you and I are friends. We're both veterans. You obviously are married to a minority of minority and biracial kids. Does it not just irk you, after serving your country, serving your state, to see this and witness this happening in a state that's supposed to be so tolerant, where a white person puts on a monkey mask, throws eggs, punches, and screams at a black conservative man in 2021?
Yeah, I can tell you, Dan, if that had happened to the Democratic nominee, I mean, it would be pure chaos in the Capitol, absolutely. But now, not a peep, because racism is okay. Racism is perfectly fine in California as long as it's directed towards the right people, and the right people being anyone who disagrees with the Democratic Party. It's
just disgusting. I don't even know, Senator, how we come this far and allowed it to happen. I mean, the minute you speak up, then, of course, we're racist for speaking up and calling out their racism, which is why I don't mean to joke. But again, we're in this upside down, good is evil, evil is good world. I don't know how we got here.
Well, that's what Ibram Kendi said in one of his interviews, was that, you're racist, period. If you're not a black person in this country, then you're racist. And the moment you say you're not racist, that confirms the fact that you are a racist. I mean, so there is no escaping it. They have decided they're going to slap this label on everyone they choose, and there is nothing that you can do about it. And I wonder how long it's going to take Californians to, stand up and say, look, we are just not going to have this. And we have seen it, across the country and in California, parents showing up at school board meetings saying, knock it off, stop teaching our kids this nonsense. This is not the way that we want our kids taught. And we definitely don't want you, kind of referring your feelings that everyone is racist onto our kids.
Yeah. So talking about this recall election, because we are days away now. Mm-hmm. And I can tell you, I'm filling mine out and walking it in and watching them put it in a lockbox. Okay, I'm not mailing it in. I'm not using a machine. That's my call. Newsom must be worried, because we had heard that Miss Harris and Mr. Biden, remember, they canceled their trips after the bombing in Kabul because it was bad optics. But the VP was out here yesterday. Biden still might come over the weekend. Obama cuts a video supporting him. They're labeling it as the, of course, right-wing Republican recall when 38% of the people that signed it were not Republicans. So what are you hearing in Sacramento? Because to me, it looks like Newsom is running scared. I mean, they're bringing in 3 big guns, Biden, Obama, and Harris. And in his last speech the other day, he was like screaming and foaming at the mouth about Larry Elder. I think somebody's worried.
Yeah, he is very worried, as are the Democrats that I serve within the legislature. They're very concerned. And yeah, you're right. You don't bring out the big guns if you're not concerned. I mean, they are pumping a lot of money into this campaign. And I heard him at a rally or something he did the other day where it sounded like he was going to burst into tears. So he's definitely concerned, as he should be. Yeah, because he seems to think, or he wants to keep categorizing it as the Republican recall. But if it were a Republican recall, given the number of registered Republicans in this state, he wouldn't be worried at all. So he knows full well that Democrats and independents are ticked off at him too.
All right, let's talk about this before you got to go. AB 101, disgusting. So Senate pushes it through. I know that we've only got a handful of seats up in Sacramento left to control. I'm sure Newsom's going to sign this garbage. This is not teaching a fair and equal, I don't use equality, or equity rather, I use equality. This is not teaching that. This is teaching that whites are the oppressor, blacks are the victim, pretty much, right? And trying to rewrite our American history. And they're going to ram this down every kid's throat after 2025 in public schools in California, right?
That's right. It's state-sanctioned racism, period. I mean, what else could you call it? If you look through the books on CRT like I have, you'll see, I mean, it's right there in printed word. It's not hyperbole on my part or the part of any other Republican. It's right there in the book. We know exactly what they stand for. We know exactly what they want to teach. I mean, they had kids, my goodness, in Cupertino, they had 3rd graders having to fill out their matrix of, identifying their white privilege, and other students who are having to identify where they are in the oppressor matrix. I mean, this is craziness. It's craziness. But again, racism is okay as long as it's directed towards the right people.
Yeah. Oh, my goodness. State Senator Melissa Melendez, thank you for your service in Sacramento. I know you're trying the best you can with a very, very small minority up there, and thank you for your service in the Navy as well. You take care. Keep being a voice. Keep fighting for us because, man, if California turns red next Tuesday, holy you-know-what message that would send to this nation, and that's why the Democrats are running scared like little rats.
That's right.
You take care, Melissa.
Remember to vote.
Yes.
Thank you. Bye.
Yes. Vote once, vote often if you're on the left, right? A few seconds left. Folks want to help out. What should they do if American citizens are just watching this program going, I want to help. What do I do? Oh, it looks like we lost his audio. We lost your audio there, Adam. So, folks, that was a clip from our show just 2 days ago here on Real America. And unlike Joe Biden, I actually believe in our military's creed of leave no man behind. And with that, as I said, that clip was on Tuesday, where we featured an Afghanistan war veteran, retired Master Sergeant Adam Hill, who's trying to raise money to rescue Afghan interpreters who helped U.S. forces, particularly his actual interpreter. And as you saw right there, the audio went out. He wasn't able to get the information out there to us. So guess what? This is what we decided to do. Let's welcome Adam back on. Because as I said, and as we should keep this promise, you don't leave anyone behind. So welcome back, Adam. How you doing, brother?
Good. How are you doing? Thank you so much for giving me another shot at this. Hopefully I can get it right this time.
It's, you know what, it's TV, there's technical difficulties, but I'll tell you what, it wasn't just you reaching back out and saying, hey, here's the info if you want to put it up somewhere. There were a whole bunch of viewers. They were sending me private messages and tweeting me and emailing me going, he got cut off, what happened? And then, of course, there was a conspiracy theorist like, wasn't it interesting how they cut him off right when he was trying to tell the information? No, folks, nobody cut him off on purpose. Adam, you had a microphone problem. But again, I really wanted to make a point that we don't leave people behind, do we, Adam? And that's why I'm bringing you back on so you can now tell people how to help. But first, let's take a step back and tell them what you're trying to do and why you're trying to get your friend Omar and other interpreters out of that country right now.
Okay. So first off, my name's Adam Hill. I retired from the military within the last month, 21 years of service. My Terp Omar, who I'm trying to help, is one of the many interpreters who I got to work with in my time. He was a specifically impactful one. He was just as trusted as any other American. I have a partner in this, Jordan Shao. He's a retired Marine. He worked with one of his interpreters in Helm in 2009 during a particularly dangerous time. So this is what kind of brought us together, is helping our two folks. And then we realized that there's more people that need help. Omar has a relative who was killed by the Taliban. Now his family, that family's at risk, so we need to get them out. There's a school teacher involved in this. So right now we're looking at this current group. It's about 30 to 40 people that need our help.
Wow. And these are interpreters, their family members, and Americans as well?
I don't have any Americans in my group. There are different resources for Americans that I can point you towards. But these are specifically special interest visas, interpreters who have worked with our country over the past 10, 15 years.
Right, the SIVs that Joe Biden talked about that we promised we were going to get out that we didn't. We've left thousands of them behind. Yeah, the SIVs.
Right. After that speech, honestly, I'm not aware of any SIVs actually getting onto the airfield after that.
And we heard that, a commercial aircraft left today and has folks from different foreign nations and supposedly a couple of Americans and maybe some SIVs. But again, we know for a fact there are thousands of these interpreters and the folks that worked with our government hand in hand that still want to get out. The Biden administration says it's 50 to 100 Americans. I've heard from vets like yourself who are in contact with actual Americans. It's more like several hundred, not 50 to 100. I don't know. What have you heard about Americans left behind?
The Americans are so far down to ground, as they probably should be, that there's really not a lot of information of them coming out. Really, all my sources of information are the SIV cases. They look, they speak, and they're able to get around and see what's going on in the world, see what's going on.
The Americans have to hide, or else, like they're in hiding, right? Because the Taliban, as you told us Tuesday, they're going door to door looking for the interpreters and the Americans, right?
Right. Unfortunately, we biometrically enrolled all these people when they were working with us. Ugh. And when we left that stuff with the Afghani government fell. Now the Taliban has all this biometric information on people that supported the United States. Not a good time.
Yeah, we just talked about that with our previous guest and the facial recognition and all the tech that we left. We've been talking about M16s and Humvees and choppers, and that's bad because that gives them an arsenal. But the technology we left behind, woof. Okay, we're going to try this one more time before we go. We're going to give you plenty of time. No audio issues. If people want to help you, Adam, how do we do that?
Okay, we have an Indiegogo started. It's a mouthful. It's called Support Left Behind Afghan Interpreters to Flee. Jordan Shao is the creator, and again, he is my partner in this. And anything that's donated will be going to getting those people out of the country, getting those people situated at either here in the United States or at a secondary country in between, and getting them new lives and getting them started.
Now, JoJo said you can't go over there and do anything. The State Department forbids Americans helping interpreters and Americans. I got a few choice words for Joe. But anyway, that's me. You guys are still going to help, even though the State Department has their head up there, you know what.
Well, that's what we're good at. When the nation fails to do something, we're going to figure out where the gap is, and we're going to fill it.
There you go. I love it. Adam Hill, retired Master Sergeant, thanks for all you did for this country and the service, and thank you for what you're doing now to help save these brave interpreters and folks that helped you and your brothers in arms as we were there fighting America's longest war. You take care, Adam, and I'm glad we didn't leave you behind, brother.
Thank you so much.
Yep. All right, switching gears before we head to break. This is a story that we've been tracking now for a couple months, and it's good news, so I want to bring you good news. I know it seems like a lot of the news these days is always bad, right? Well, look at the regime we have in charge. Anyway, if you're like me and you like your guns and you appreciate the Second Amendment, then here's some good news. Reuters reporting this morning that the White House has pulled the Biden nominee, Mr. Chipman, to run the, as Joe called it, the AFT, because he didn't know it was the ATF. Remember that? Brain fart. So this Chipman guy, if you recall, came under fire. We threw some of that shade at him during his confirmation Senate hearings for all kinds of stuff. He had racist comments that he made while he was employed at the Detroit division of the ATF. Anonymous former ATF agents said that Chipman's racist comments, tons of colleagues knew about it. Nobody ever did anything. Matter of fact, one of the workers, quote, "Wow, there were an unusually large number of African-American agents that passed the exam this time. They must have been cheating." That's what one person said, this clown said once, and it was confirmed by other officials that worked with him in Detroit. Not to mention, he's a huge, huge opponent of the Second Amendment. Go back and look at some of the statements this wacko's made about taking people's guns. So anyway, just wanted to go to break with some good news that the Biden administration figured this guy's not going to get confirmed, and so they pulled his nomination. Now, of course, we'll have to wait and see what kind of wacko they throw up next. Anyway, this Saturday marks the 20th
vaccinated guy who gobbled horse goo. Rest in peace, Wheezy.
Wow. Jimmy Kimmel, the voice of the tolerant left in Hollywood, taking a shot at the unvaccinated, using his national platform to suggest that Americans that don't take the experimental jab shouldn't be admitted to ICU beds. What about the folks, Jimmy, that took the vax and then still get COVID? Are you going to treat them? Just the folks that didn't take it, right? What a piece of trash you are. Late night host saying something like that. Can you imagine? What would it look like if government leaders would they actually start doing those types of restrictions? Well, you took the shot, so we'll give you any treatment you need. You didn't take the shot, you're screwed. Or how about your employees and your business is mandating the vaccine, so we'll let you stay open and sell your widgets, but you didn't take the shot, so your widget store closes down. That's actually happening in Australia. Don't believe me?
To protect the health system, we've got everybody locked down. We're going to move to a situation where, to protect the health system, we're going to lock out people who are not vaccinated and can be. If you're making the choice not to get vaccinated, then you're making the wrong choice. You're making the wrong choice. And for safety's sake, and back to that point about how much work our nurses have to do, as this becomes absolutely a pandemic of the unvaccinated.
You hear that? It's happening. In a country that, think about it. Most people, I would think, Australia, New Zealand, Britain, those countries that we've mirrored or they've mirrored kind of us when it comes to our democracy, right, and independent and freedoms, you would think a country like Australia wouldn't do these things. Oh, but they're doing it. The folks living there now facing some of the strictest COVID lockdown measures in the world. Nope, not talking about Germany, not talking about any of those other countries in Europe, Eastern European. No, we're talking about Australia. The Blaze is reporting that the Australian Premier, Daniel Andrews, that's the guy we just showed you, claims we will lock out the unvaxxed people from the economy and the healthcare system in our new vaccinated economy. So you're just going to let people die and let their business die because they won't take the shot. That's what they're doing. Australia's two largest states, Victoria and New South Wales, remain in lockdown. Australia's second largest city, Melbourne, we're told, it's prohibited where you can't even leave your home for more than 2 hours. They got curfews in effect. Wow. And travel's restricted too. You can't go in after 9 p.m. until 5 a.m. If residents break the rules, they face thousands of dollars in fines and they'll arrest you. Government officials say they do not plan to ease these restrictions until a majority, 70, 80%, I think they said, we'll find out with our next guest, is populated. So it's take the shot or vaccinated rather, or screw you. That's what their government is saying. Now, I know this sounds extreme and, oh, Dan, it's not going to come to America. Do you think they thought it would come to Australia? In Sydney, officials claim restrictions will not be lifted, again, until 70% of their residents, and here's the age, get ready, 16 and older, teenagers. We've already talked to you about myocarditis, problems with possible reproductive with females, and yet they're fine with 16 and older. And it gets worse, folks. There's more. Australia is developing, ready for it, facial recognition apps that citizens will be forced to download and will send police to their house if they break the rules. The app developed by the state of South Australia to enforce residents to quarantine at home. The app will randomly notify users and asks their location. If they don't send their location in 15 minutes, the health department gets notified and officers can be sent to their home for not complying. Holy crap. Critics now saying the facial recognition app very similar to the Chinese Communist Party's facial recognition system. I wonder where they got it. Nick Holt, investigative journalist and the host of the Nick Holt podcast. I want to welcome Nick back to the program now to discuss what's going down and to use a phrase from Crocodile Dundee. Crikey, what's going on down under, Nick? I mean, seriously, I don't think people would ever think that a country like yours would be going to this extreme. I mean, this is some crazy stuff you got going on down there.
It's interesting, Dan, that you said that this was developed by the government. I think the quote from the government was that this was developed within 2.5 months from scratch by a team inside the state government. Now, it takes these people 2.5 months to decide what they're going to have for lunch, so that certainly isn't the case. Let's take a look at South Australia. A lot of people don't realise this, but the South Australian government has already conducted more than 50 million biometric facial scans in more than 230 gambling venues since December 2020. Now, that technology was awarded, the contract was awarded to a company called VIX Vision, which seems to run out of a shopfront in Queensland. But if you take a deeper look, then you'll see that that company is connected to VIX Technology, which is a global transport integration company. One of their biggest clients is, of course, the Beijing Infrastructure and Investment Company. Now, VIX says that its biometrics can be used for security, safety, border patrol, control, and safe cities. Now, where have we heard safe cities before, Dan? Of course, we've heard it from Huawei and the Chinese Communist Party, who have already rolled out biometric software in 650 cities nationwide and 12 African countries.
Yeah, and Nick, let me interrupt real quick so people understand, because we had that story on a while back with some video. I don't know if we have it available now, but what they've got in China, folks, is if you commit something as simple as jaywalking, they now have, as you said, in 600 and some of their cities, facial recognition that immediately takes a picture of you jaywalking. The CCP is notified, and you will get a fine like that. Not to mention they have their demerit merit system with points. You lose your citizen points. If you do a bigger crime, cops are sent to you immediately to arrest you. That's kind of how the facial recognition is already working in China. Did I get that kind of right?
Correct.
Okay, so that's what's happening in China, folks, and now Australia is bringing that same technology, and as you heard me earlier in the program, we left behind facial recognition equipment in Afghanistan that the Taliban now has, which, oh, by the way, Chinese operatives are in the country showing them how to use it. Anyway, I just wanted to bring that all full circle, Nick, with this facial recognition crap. Go ahead.
Yeah, look, you're spot on. And I think what people are finally starting to realise, and I hope so, is that China is on the move. We've released documents now of collusion between state premiers and the Chinese Communist Party. We have hundreds of documents now that support that. South Australia is a very good one to look at. Now, this is a state that's been relatively quiet through this lockdown, and now things are starting to really take off there. If you want to know how compromised South Australia is by the Chinese Communist Party, just ask their local Uyghur community.
Yeah, exactly. We know what's happened to the Uyghurs in China, and thank you for filling us in on what's happening in your country to them as well. Unbelievable. I want to talk more about what's happening with these lockdowns and how you're fighting back, because not only do I want you on the program to talk about the facial recognition that could be coming to our country